today I just want to touch bases with you to let you know that if you're in the Puget Sound or anywhere south of here, really, the chanterelles are popping. So let's take a look at these butter sponges. They're looking a bit different than the ones you see in the fall. So let me pick these out of here.
Welcome to Mushroom Wonderland.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Aaron Hilliard. This is Mushroom Wonderland. If you're new to this channel, what we talk about here is mushrooms, wild mushrooms, all kinds of mushrooms, edible mushrooms, hallucinogenic mushrooms, poisonous, deadly mushrooms. We talk about them all. Today I'm coming to you from Kitsap County in western Washington, and it's about 91 degrees. It's the 26th of June. So we had this like really long, wet spring. Everybody was complaining earlier this month about that it was too wet and cold. And I told people, don't worry, our time is going to come. We're going to have some hot days coming in the future. And sure enough, here they are. So not typically a time of year when you'd go out foraging for wild mushrooms. There are a lot of oyster mushrooms popping out right here. And if you go high in elevation on the east side, you can find morels. They're still growing over there. Kind of a wacky 2022. But we've had some amazing morels and oyster mushroom blooms this year. It has been proving to be just a crazy, amazing year, an unusual year. So if you're new to picking, I'm sorry. If you're going to compare other years against this one, especially for morels, you're going to be disappointed probably from here on out, because it has just been the most amazing morel year. But here in Washington State, one of the most popular wild edible mushrooms is known as the chanterelle, or the Cantharellus formosus, the Pacific Golden Chanterelle. These grow wild here in the Pacific Northwest. Different species of these mushrooms grow all over the world. The Cantharellus formosus, or the Pacific Golden Chanterelle, is pretty unique to the Pacific Northwest, ranging from Oregon up into British Columbia. They typically fruit in the fall. In the autumn is when most mushrooms fruit around here, although we do typically get a summer flush of chanterelles in July. Every year I find little, we call them butter sponges. They're little tiny, little tough little chanterelles that grow in the heat of the summer. The mycelium is just excited. It can't wait anymore. It wants to produce some fruiting bodies. And so I can typically find these little butter sponges, and they make for really good eating. I've never seen them before in June, and that is until this year. Like I said, right now it's 91 degrees. I took my dog to this like pond that I know about out in this county park, just so we could jump in the water. Thought I would stop by a place that I'm familiar with, and was pleasantly surprised to see what we got growing right down here in the undergrowth of this conifer type forest. A pretty mature middle growth forest. This isn't an ancient old growth forest by any means, but these trees are probably 60, 70 years old, about 2.5 feet, 3 feet around at the base, some of the more mature ones. But these mushrooms are mycorrhizal, so that means they grow in association with these conifer trees. So probably this big Douglas fir right here, the Pseudotsuga menziesii. Its roots go under the ground, and then these mushrooms, their mycelium is attached to the roots of the trees. And the trees actually feed carbohydrates into these mushrooms. And the mushrooms have enzymes that help to break down the nutrients in the soil so that the tree can benefit from them. If you're new to the channel, my name is Aaron Hilliard. I'm the vice president of the local Mycological Society, creator of Mushroom Wonderland. I've just been a mushroom geek most of my life. This is Gunner. He's my hound lab, and he's always out here picking mushrooms with me, so you see him in all my videos. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit subscribe, and you can watch more videos like this. But today I just want to touch bases with you to let you know that if you're in the Puget Sound or anywhere south of here, really, the chanterelles are popping. So let's take a look at these butter sponges. I'm going to flip the camera around. If you like content like this, give it a thumbs up, And if you want to leave a positive comment, that's always helpful, and it helps the algorithm out. So let me flip the camera and let me show you what these summer chanterelles look like here on 26th of June 2022, which is the earliest I've ever seen them growing. So yeah, let's take a look. So if we look right down here, they're looking a bit different than the ones you see in the fall. So let me pick these out of here. And yeah, I plucked them. That's okay. You can pluck them. It doesn't hurt the mycelium. Actually, there's been studies that show that it can be beneficial to the mycelium, that it actually is stimulating to the mycelium. But look at this little cluster. And you can see these veins in here, these kind of, they're not gills. They're not typical gills. And they run decurrent, so they run down the stipe. But it's kind of hard to tell in this contorted little mess what really is going on there. But here's the cap. They're kind of sherbet colored. And then the gills go down and they attach to the stem. And they string apart, kind of like string cheese. You see that? So these are some of the most sought after wild edible mushrooms that grow in Washington State. In Oregon and out on the coast, in the coastal range, you can find a species of chanterelle in the summertime called Cantharellus roseocanus. But this one is just your typical Cantharellus formosus. So this is just the same one that's going to be grown in the fall. It's just the morphology is a little bit different because it doesn't have all that moisture that a typical fall chanterelle would have, which would be like really big and chunky. But you can see they're just kind of boiling out of the soil, and if I look around this area I could probably find more. I call them butter sponges because these little guys just absorb so much butter and salt and flavoring. They are delicious, wild edible. These are the first mushrooms that I ever really learned to forage. My grandma started me foraging these when I was about 8 years old, and I was hooked ever since. So these Pacific Golden Chanterelles, really good to eat, but just like any wild mushroom, start with just a little bit, and make sure that you cook them thoroughly. They do have chitin in the cell wall, which is a same chemical that's in the exoskeleton of shellfish and crabs, which make it indigestible to the human system until the heat actually breaks that chitin down. And also, don't eat a whole ton of them if you're new to summer chanterelles or any chanterelles, because they don't agree with some people. I personally am intolerant of them. I wasn't. I used to enjoy eating them every fall, and as of the last few years, they upset my stomach something fierce, so I can't eat them. I'm going to leave these growing here, and I'm going to check on them in a few days to see if they got any bigger. But typically they don't grow much bigger than this in the summer, and they're just little knobs. But really pleasantly surprised to see them growing this early. Usually it's not even October till we start to see them. So what I've found typically in the summer is we're going to have this flush of summer chanterelles. Little butter sponges are popping up right now. They're not going to get a lot bigger than this. And then they go dormant again for the rest of July and August. It's just too hot for these mushrooms to survive. And then late September or October, when the rains really return, then they come out and they're huge then, and much darker gold. They're not this beautiful sherbet color. You know, a good way to harvest these is to cut them at the base. I have actually seen a new fruiting body grow off of a cut base before, so that is a possibility, although it's really, really rare. This one happens to be a really interesting find because this was cut a couple weeks ago. But look, new buttons are starting to grow off of the same stump. So I've heard of this happening, but I never really believed it. It just sounds like some kind of folklore. But it really does happen sometimes, I guess. So if you do cut it, there is a chance that this might happen. So how about that? Interesting. The more you know. Personally, I cut them when I'm picking them to just keep the dirt out of my basket. And I mean, you know, what could it hurt to not tear up the mycelium? But I mean, if you're in a pinch and you need to pluck them, that's fine. It's really not going to affect the mushrooms. I've plucked patches that regrow every year, sometimes more prolifically than they did the year before that. So they do have a unique smell, and it's a sweet smell. I would like to say that it smells a bit like apricots, but I think it's just like a color association thing, because they are kind of the color of apricots, you see. But I don't know, they smell kind of sweet. They smell like a golden chanterelle. And once you've smelled one, you know, you can pretty much identify that smell anywhere. But between the smell, the decurrent gills, this orangish color, the fact that they grow in clusters in coniferous forests, underneath usually a western hemlock, so the Tsuga or the Pseudotsuga menziesii, the Douglas fir, they really like to associate with those two trees in particular here in the Northwest. But yeah, really cool find. So if you know where to find your summer chanterelles, go check out your spot. They're probably up right now, or they're going to be coming up within the next couple of weeks. These spores will continue to drop even though I plucked them away from the mycelium. The fruiting bodies are pretty mature, and so the gills or veins on these, actually the spores grow all over those veins. So very cool find, summer chanterelles 2022. So thanks for joining Mushroom Wonderland, and if you like videos like this, kind of tipping you in on mushrooms and where to find them, how to forage wild food, maybe in a survival situation, or if you like to go out and camp and just forage things while you're out in the forest, Mushroom Wonderland's a great channel for you. So again, my name is Aaron Hilliard, and there's Gunner, and we'll see you all on the next video. Much love, everybody. Peace out.